loss isn't always obvious at first. Maybe your parts starts widening a bit, or you notice your ponytail isn't as thick as it used to be. And for a while, it's easy to brush off. Stress, hormones, maybe you're just imagining it, but then it keeps going. And that's when the second guessing starts. You try new shampoos, vitamins, maybe even something over the counter. And when none of it works, it's hard to not feel stuck. What's frustrating is most of what's out there doesn't even try to figure out why it's happening. You're given the same treatment as everyone else, no matter your age, your health, your history, and the truth is, that's not how hair loss works. There are a bunch of different causes, some genetic, some hormonal, some tied to stress or nutrition. And unless you actually figure out which one you're dealing with, it's really hard to make progress. So in this video, I want to walk through some of the real reasons behind hair loss and why it takes something more personalized to actually turn things around. So one of the biggest reasons for hair loss, and probably the least talked about, is just plain genetics. If you've noticed your part getting wider or your ponytail shrinking over time and nothing seems to help, it could be that your follicles are slowly getting smaller. That's what happens with female pattern hair loss. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, but it does mean your hair may need something more specific than whatever's on the shelf. And hormones can play a huge role too. If you've ever gone through postpartum shedding or switched birth control and noticed changes months later, that's not just in your head. Some contraceptives are harder on hair than others, depending on how they affect androgens, but most of us were never told that. And by the time the shedding shows up, it's not always clear what caused it. Then there's alopecia areata. It's autoimmune, and it usually shows up as smooth, round patches where the hair falls out suddenly. That one's not about stress or styling or anything external. It's your immune system targeting the follicles directly, which means it needs medical attention, not just a better shampoo. Stress-related shedding is different, but it's still real. Your body can only handle so much before it decides to stop things that aren't essential. And for a lot of us, that includes hair. Maybe you went through something intense a few months ago, or pushed too hard at the gym while under-eating, or just didn't sleep for weeks. And now suddenly, your hair's coming out in the shower. That's called telogen effluvium. Now, the hair usually comes back, and it can take a while, and it's easy to freak out while it's happening. And nutrition is another one of those hidden causes. Hair takes a lot of energy to grow. So if your body's low on things like iron, zinc, protein, or B vitamins, it's gonna slow down. And that doesn't always show up as fatigue or sickness. Sometimes it just shows up as shedding. The fix is usually simple once you know what's missing, but you gotta get some blood work done. Sometimes hair loss is part of a bigger medical picture. Thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions, anemia, these don't always feel dramatic, but they can affect your hair long before anything else. And until the root condition is treated, nothing topical is going to make a real difference. And finally, there's just life. Tight ponytails, years of heat styling, dry shampoo buildup, bleach, even air pollution. Over time, all of that can make your scalp more sensitive or even damage the follicles themselves. And while it might not be the main reason, it can absolutely make whatever is going on that much harder to deal with. And once you start to understand just how much could be behind your hair loss, it gets easier to see why most treatments fall short. It's not that they're bad, they're just not made for your specific situation. So if you've ever felt like nothing is working, not because you're doing it wrong, but because none of it was really made for you in the first place, that's exactly the problem Roots is trying to solve. Now, this starts with your DNA, and not in some abstract wellness way, but in a real clinical sense. They'll look at the actual genes linked to hair loss, ingredient response, hormone sensitivity, and then match that up with your health history, your lifestyle, and what you're seeing day to day. From there, a dermatologist goes over the data and puts together a custom topical formula, one that's designed for your situation, not just something pulled off a shelf. Then it ships straight to your door every month. You don't have to go into an office or explain your story all over again to another provider. You don't even have to leave the house. It's quiet, private, and built around what's actually going on with you. Now, as for the cost, no, it's not nothing. But if you've already spent months, maybe years, trying every shampoo, serum, supplement, or trick the internet could offer, this might be the first thing that starts by, asking what's wrong. So the full version of Roots includes the DNA kit, the analysis, your custom formula, and a derma roller to help with absorption. That part's around $160 up front. And from there, it's just over $60 a month. You can pause or cancel if you ever need to. Just give them a bit of notice. And if you're not ready for the DNA route, there's a more affordable version that skips the testing and starts at $59 a month. But when you really start to break down all the reasons behind hair loss, whether it's hormones, genetics, stress, or something deeper, it makes sense why the usual treatments don't work for everyone. Because they're not built to ask the right questions in the first place. That's what makes something like Roots worth considering. It's not a miracle cure, but it does start from you, your biology, your health, your situation, and sometimes that's the shift that actually starts to make a difference. And just a quick note, none of this is medical advice. It's based on experience, research, and what we've seen, but definitely talk to your doctor before starting anything new, especially if you're on other medications or have underlying conditions. But if you are thinking about trying Roots, there's a link in the description. That's where you'll find any special offers or discounts too, and you won't see those if you go straight to their site. Also, if you're interested in working with us or sponsoring a future video, just reach out using the email in the description below. If this helped, I'd really appreciate a quick thumbs up. And if you've got questions, feel free to leave them below. I try to get back to as many as I can. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.